Good afternoon, everybody. I'll not go through all of the different timelines that we could possibly be on now, but what I will say is I'm delighted to have you here with us today. And something that was said earlier about providing inspiration, that's what I hope to do today. I hope to inspire you to actually go on that journey with us, alongside us, and actually work on how we can together make the journey for a child from the point of the discovery of their abuse right through to the recovery a seamless one, a better one for the child, because that is what we are about. So today, what I wanted to talk about and share with you is a bit more detail about the model for protecting children. Because this is what it does. It emulates the path that a child goes through from the child's perspective, from the point of the harm occurring or us finding out about the harm right through. And I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail later. But you could be that inspirational person at some point along this way for that child that will help them in their recovery. And this is the point at which their recovery begins. So we're very much emphasizing from the very outset, we want everybody working together in a multi-agency group to, and it's about how to respond, taking into account the different aspects of the child's journey. So you've heard several people say today, you know, in our film and things about things being different, and it is different. And all too often we find that the biggest difference is that the victim ends up getting the blame because they're an agent, they're acting online, they're engaging online. And we will be putting responsibility for that engagement on the child. So the biggest struggle that we need to be pushing against is the struggle to encourage people not to victim blame. Very often this is our lack of understanding about the differences. And you know, we need to be really considering where the child is at. And these differences are the way they communicate online. It's different from the way I communicate online. Doesn't make it wrong, it's just different. And I need to understand that. There's the fact that the abuse is invariably discovered and not disclosed. Again, we'll go into that. Grooming is very different online. And again, I'll talk about that again in a minute. And there are big implications for recovery. So unless we truly understand it from the child's perspective, we're not going to be able to help them on that road. And you can understand it. It's about the how to intervene, and that's what we're talking about. Because the key message we want to give you today is that children can and do recover when they get the right help. You just need the right tools to be able to do that. So let's start with the communication. Tina can tell you in a lot more detail about this communication. Tina's a young woman that we worked with at the Mary Collins Foundation.
Tina is 14 years old and is a victim of online abuse. These are her words. The internet is a weird version of the real world where you can do everything. Groomers don't have to worry about seeming suspicious. It's a place where children can act like adults. I used people online to make me feel good. Girls use groomers to make them feel mature. Groomers use girls for sex. It's a mutual using of one another. Girls get involved with men because nothing much seems to be happening when you're 12 to 14, but you want to be older. The most talkative girls online are the quietest offline, and the most normal man online is a real weirdo offline. We rarely talk about our behaviour online. It's kind of embarrassing.
We rarely talk about our behaviour online. And that's a really important message for us to understand. We need to be asking them about their behaviour online. And it's a place where we can do everything. Well, currently it's probably the only space where you can do everything. And Tina, we worked with before COVID. Groomers do not have to worry because there's nobody watching them. And children can act like adults. They've always wanted to act like adults. But in this environment, they can really do it. They do it to feel good. And that mutual using of one another, now I emphasize, that's a young person's perspective. So actually even recognizing that they are being abused, recognizing at this stage it may have an impact on them, is a hurdle that we have to help them overcome. So understanding this communication, understanding that them acting online, them communicating online, them saying things like this, is actually them being groomed into doing it, enticed and lured. It's not about the equal power relationship, and we mustn't be duped into thinking that it is. And we have to be talking to young people about this. The other thing I mentioned was discovery disclosure. This is a cycle of disclosure, and I'll talk our way through this and you can see what the differences are. So a child is sexually abused. The real path that they will take is they will recognize they're being abused and they'll be fantasizing about it stopping. They don't want it to be happening. Doesn't mean they don't love their abuser. That's complicated, but they want the abuse to stop. They'll rehearse the words they're going to use. They will also identify a safe adult, that could be you, that they want to talk to, that they're going to share it with. They'll test reactions, maybe by trying out something less shocking to see how you're going to respond. And then they take that leap of faith and tell. Now, at this point, when they are believed, that is whenever their recovery begins. And they're telling you because they want you to help them get out of this. If they're not believed, and unfortunately this happens, then unfortunately the cycle of abuse continues. But you heard what Tina said. We rarely talk about what we do online. And invariably what we're finding is that we are discovering the abuse of the young person by finding the pictures, by finding the films, and they have no control over how much they get to tell us. And they may not even be recognizing that they're being abused, let alone wanting to talk to us about it. Yet our child protection system and process in the UK, and I'm sure in other areas, just follows this pathway of where we will want the child to tell us all about it when they may not be ready yet. And they will be carrying a lot of responsibility, which we need to work with them to get them to the point where they realize they can take that leap of faith and tell us what's happened and that we can help them. Grooming is also very different online. There's something about that unique world of the online that feels exclusive. And that is something that perpetrators, people who want to groom children, can actually use to their advantage. And young people don't recognize it for what it is. We don't recognize it for what it is. We still attribute agency to the child. So we need to be thinking about how we can stop that. So this is from Finkelhor. And the idea that somebody wants to have sex with a child, abuse a child, groom a child, the first thing they have to overcome is their conscience. And unfortunately, with the internet, they're going to find loads of groups that will help them overdo that and give them the narrative, so that it virtually gets rid of this hurdle. They then have to create the opportunity. Now, in the real world, that could mean you becoming a social worker like me, or a police officer, or somebody in a position of trust, or even a parent, or getting involved with a parent, getting into an environment where they will have access to children. Unfortunately, yet again, the internet has taken that away, because all they have to do is go into chat rooms, onto TikTok, various different apps, and they can start engaging with the child and very quickly get them into a private space without any of us realizing it. So we are usually the circle of protectors around the child. In this instance, we're not. And then there's the overcoming the victim's resistance. Sometimes this can take a long time, but on the internet, it can be very quick indeed, because they've got that exclusive contact. So whenever it's about understanding how this can happen so quickly, and therefore understanding what messages we need to be giving to a child. You say to them, you're being groomed, they're going to laugh at you because they don't agree, they don't understand it. So we have to find other ways, but all the time keeping the responsibility with the perpetrator. So that's what we cover, we go through in the training. Also, the other big difference is recovery. As I said, it starts at the point of discovery. And it's also understanding everything that that child is carrying that is important. And us working out with the child how we can unload them, how we can unburden them. And I want you to listen to this and you'll understand what I'm saying.
It felt like everyone in the street was looking at me. It felt like they'd all seen the pictures that had been taken of me, and I was terrified they'd come up and say that they'd seen me on the net. I know it's not logical, but that's how it felt. Because of this, I refused to go out in public, started to refuse to go to school, and didn't feel I could trust even my closest friends.
So it's about recognizing behaviors and recognizing what they might be telling us. It's actually recognizing what industry can do to assist getting pictures down and giving that information to the young people. It's about educating ourselves in the tools that are out there, and therefore being able to use those tools and that information to help the young person on that path to recovery. And going back to the model, it's about emphasizing that you could be that person that helps them. Each one of us professionally and personally could be involved with the child at any stage along this. As Simon Mason, or my colleague, talks about, the golden thread that runs throughout everything we do is the victim's recovery, and how you can actually intervene at each point of this is important in enabling that child to move on to the next stage. Now, these stages, you will notice, are a process, our process in investigating, our process in intervening. And as Tink was saying, it's about making the process fit around the child rather than the child into the process. So it is understanding with that discovery and the impact and taking all that on board with the initial planning and assessment and thinking, is this child, was the abuse discovered or was it disclosed? If it was discovered, the child's not ready for us to whip them into ongoing discovery through an interview, a video recorded interview. It's also about understanding what has happened to the child, and if their abuse has been recorded, we're going to be recording them in that video interview. Or we're going to be doing a medical and we'll be taking pictures and their abuse, they were photographed. So how do we prepare them for that? In this first meeting with the child and family, it's how can we stop the victim blaming? How can we show that we're supportive? It's notice all the hows. How do we support the whole family? Because it can have a ripple effect, and looking at the circumstances of the family, is there going to be honour, shame? Is the whole community going to be talking about it? Is it going to be in the press? Is everybody going to be gossiping? Who needs to be doing this? How are they going to do it? And for how long are they going to be doing it? Because the ongoing recovery of the child is paramount. And that system needs to be there and supportive for the child. Very often our intervention stops here. We get to court. This can be a very long time. The child might be going backwards and forwards here, but we're just focused on court. We get to court, whatever the outcome from court is, very often all our services stop. And what we are saying, what we're advocating is that we need that to not happen. We need there to be a doorway through which the child, even when they're older, can come back and can actually get support. So it's about identifying what the future support needs are, signposting, and identifying a service that can do that, and considering all of those. So it's the how. How do we do all of this? I'm proud to say that Click Path to Protection, we've got 3 different packages in the UK. One is Think, which is for first responders. Well, it's actually for everybody. It's just thinking that this might be happening, thinking this behaviour might be about online abuse, understanding how it can happen without victim blaming. Then there's ACT, which is for people who are involved in the assessment process, the investigation process, the intervention process. And then there's for managers who haven't attended the other two. And I know that in the audience, there are some of you who are trainers for us that are delivering this, and I wanted to go wider. So I'm asking for your help in doing that. But you'll see that it's a multi-agency spread. The predominant being, our health, our social work, and our police and education, because they are the three lead agencies when it comes to child protection in the UK. But equally, there are quite a lot from other agencies, because it's everybody around the child. And I love the training, and I love the people who come on it, because what I love is whenever they go away feeling inspired that they can make a difference. And these are some of the messages that have come directly out, that it's impacted in practice immediately. Just thinking how, understanding what is happening, not being overwhelmed or silenced by technology. You can listen to the COVID film that you saw earlier and be thinking, well, it's happening everywhere. There's nothing I can do. Well, there is. You can make the difference for one child. You can probably make the difference for more than one child, but if you can make the difference for one child, well done. And that's what this is about. It's about giving you that confidence. And from the evaluation of training, because we evaluate everything that we do and the impact of it, you can see that in the majority of cases, confidence dramatically increases as a result of this training. Professionals who remember their professional training, remember that they can do it, are able to apply just with understanding the differential impacts. And I want that to be you. We want that to be you. And what we really want is for you to help us to develop this further. So, enough from me. What I want you to do now, as I said, your input is valuable to us. Just like everything we do is informed by the work we do directly with young people and their families, it's also informed by the direct work we do as professionals, and that's what we're here today to do. So for the rest of this session, what I want us to do is to break up into groups, and it's just random. Don't think that you've been put into a group for any particular reason, but it will be facilitated by us. And I want you to think about, in your geographical area, not necessarily a professional group, but you can also bring that in your geographical area, what single change would have the biggest impact on helping victims recover? Okay, so we'll now break you into groups. Thank you.